What is up, Salami squad around the world? It is your boys from DMP in the building. It is your boy Mike Richman. We got Jimmy. We got Tom in here. How we doing today, fellas?
I'm doing absolutely fine. How are you boys doing?
Hey, man, it's playoff hockey today. Doing great.
We are cooking, and exactly like you said, we got some playoff hockey to start looking forward to here. So let's go ahead and get into that a little bit here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started the first round of the playoffs, and every team has played at least 2 games besides the Canadians, who start on Wednesday the 19th, so today. So let's dive right into it, see what happened so far. So the St. Louis Blues are playing the Colorado Avalanche, and the first game, it was rough for the Blues. I think that they got outplayed pretty handedly, and I think that they're in for a long, long series. I think that the Avalanche just have so much damn talent. I think that team is just so hungry for a win, or for a playoff win for that matter, and or a cup in general. But I think that the Blues, I'm not going to say their cup window is absolutely closed. I think they still have incredible talent with Braden Shen, Tarasenko, but they need to be sure with goaltending with Jordan Binnington. I feel like with Binnington, he went on that run against the Bruins, and he absolutely stole that series. He stole the entire playoff series when they won. Yeah, but I think that with him, he's hot and cold. I feel like he has like a really good stretch of like 3 or 4 games, and he turns ice cold. I don't know. I don't think it'll be a sweep necessarily, but I think it's certainly a possibility. I'm not sure though.
I think they'll get at least one. I don't think we'll see a sweep.
You got to give them at least one, right?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. So a sweep is so hard to do in any 7-game series in any sport per se. But I think that if there was going to be a sweep, I think it's between Avalanche and Blues, and then the Panthers and Tampa Bay. So let's get into that. I remember we talked about this for weeks about how I wanted to see a Florida Panthers versus Lightning matchup, and we got it in the first round. I didn't know how the playoffs were going to get structured, but the way they're doing it is that the first round is still in your division, so you're still playing those same damn teams that you played all year.
All year.
And that's got to be frustrating, and it's been showing frequently in all these games. These teams are getting chippy. They're getting really agitated with each other. It's like I'd be tired of playing the same dudes over and over again. So we're seeing a lot of battles, especially actually in that St. Louis series. At the end of the first game, they got in a huge fight, and Jordan Binnington went across the ice to try to fight the other goaltender.
Oh, that's right, dude.
That
would have been awesome. I'm not sure if there's been like a stat of goalie fights in the playoffs, but if I hope to see it start sometime in the next few weeks. But yeah, back to the old Florida rivalry here. It's rough. They play Tampa Bay's up 2-0 in the series.
Yep.
The first game, the Panthers were up in the game, and then Tampa Bay came back and they won it. And then they played again last night, and Tampa Bay ran over them like a big monster truck Prius. I really, really wanted to see a good series. I really wanted to see a good battle. And it's still only 2 games in. There's still a bunch of games left to play. But it's like at this point, if the Panthers don't turn it around, it is going to be a bloodbath. It's like that game last night really changed my opinion about the Panthers. Tampa Bay's on a mission. They obviously got their best scorer back in Kucherov, and all their depth talent is still there. They don't seem to age. Victor Hedman is the best defender in the league, in my opinion, and he is just an absolute workhorse. He flies up and down the ice. He's a dominant force, and they shut them down absolutely. Time on attack. They got the penalty kill was absolutely outstanding. The Lightning, they did not let the Panthers get what they wanted. They forced them into uncomfortable situations. 4 shots in the blue line, didn't get anything allowed down low. But that I really wanted to see that series turn around. I mean, I kept hyping it up because the Panthers had such a good regular season. But that was a rough night for the Panthers. I truly hope they can turn it around. So if there was going to be a sweep, I think it might be that. And that's it's going to take away all my credibility for saying that the Panthers won their first playoff series.
Yeah, man, especially going into Game 3. That's going to be in Tampa. They're going to have the home ice. I don't know. Sweep's looking likely.
Yeah, it's like, again, it's very difficult to sweep a team in any 7-game series in any sport. But it's happened. It happened to the
Lightning. See that happen right now.
Yeah, and I think we're about to see something pretty spectacular. So let's get into a little bit more in the East Division. So we have the Penguins and the Islanders. I don't know about you, Tom, but I see this series going to 7. I think that these two teams ended up being super evenly matched, even though the Islanders played terribly against the Penguins in the regular season. But I think that the Islanders knew what they wanted to do in the playoffs. I think they want to play smart, slow hockey, that suffocating center ice defense that Barry Trotz so elegantly put together in Washington. I think that they're both slow, skilled team that they're going to suffocate you on defense and hit you with a counterattack. And I hope this series goes to 7 because it's been really fun to watch so far.
Yeah, I definitely see it. And like, no matter how biased I want to be and count the Penguins out, when you have Sidney Crosby, I mean, that's a lock for at least 2 wins. You know what I mean? Like, no matter how they're playing, they're gonna steal a couple. Well, but I don't know.
Right,
it's hard to count them out.
Now, when you get a generational talent, maybe the best player of our generation, potentially, it's up for debate. But that level of talent, he's been so dominant for literally his entire career. Never had a build-up year like some players have. But yet him on a power play with Geno Malkin, and it's like they go to work every day. They go to their 9 to 5, and they just score goals. They put the biscuit in the basket. They're a dominant force, and like the Penguins are so smart because they'll get young talent like Gensel, and they got that guy back from Toronto, Kapanen, and they play him up in the first line with Crosby or the second line with Malkin, and they develop him so well. That's been going on in Chicago for years. It's been the mold for literally building a dynasty. Like if you want to win championships, you got to develop your talent. You can't just get free agents. And so you see that with like DeBrincat, and you see that with Artemi Panarin did the same thing with Chicago. They put him on the first line with Patrick Kane, and he turned into an absolute first line stud center, left wing rather. But yeah, that the Penguins just know how to build. And I said at the beginning of the season, I was like, I don't think the Penguins are going to be good this year. I don't think that they're going to have the same dominant standings they did last year. But they finished first in the East. So
Yeah,
like you said, it's like you can't count them out. They don't really show signs of aging. And even if they did, they just adapted their game. They don't play a fast, hard-hitting game. Like Malkin is a skilled player, but he's huge. He's a monster. He throws his body around. But he doesn't really do that anymore. He plays a smart passing game, and so does Crosby. And I noticed, especially for the past 2 seasons, and especially in this series, all they pretty much do is get the puck low, and they just throw it to the center right in front of the net. Like even if no one's there, it's like it just happens to be in a high-scoring opportunity chance, and then maybe it goes off a defender in their own net. It's like they know how to play the game so smartly. But the thing is, I think why this series is going to 7 is probably mostly defense. Obviously, I keep saying that, but the Islanders have good young talent, and I think that with the loss of Anders Lee, obviously that's a huge loss. He's a team leader. He's a big presence on the ice. But I think they realize that their window, they need to win if they want to keep their core alive right now. But they got so close last year. We went to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Lightning and lost. And I think that they know what it takes to win a playoff series or two. I think that they're going to go up against probably a more skilled Penguins team and probably take it to 7. But if gun to my head, I'm saying the Penguins win this series. But fuck my ass. As always, it's going to make me upset. Also, let's get into the Capitals and Bruins. This series has been super fun to watch. It has been an absolute roller coaster, and I honestly cannot tell you who's going to win this series. I think that the Capitals have more skill per se in certain positions, but the Bruins, obviously with the perfection line and the addition of Taylor Hall, that line is what it is. It's perfection line, and they're young enough to keep producing goals, and they're young enough to be a threat every time they're on the ice. And like you know, Tom, Tuukka Rask has been a solid goaltender for 10 plus years, and it's like they're always in the playoffs. These teams are always in the playoffs. They know what they need to do, but it's like you look at these games, I cannot tell who's going to advance after this first round. I think that both teams have a dead even chance. It has been a brutal hitting series. I think that it's funny. I always root against Boston in every aspect of every sport. I will never root for Boston. But in this series, seeing what Tom Wilson did to the Rangers and how much he like made a mockery of the NHL Player Safety Association, I almost want Boston to win because the Capitals are such pricks about it. I can't stand them.
Yeah, at this point, we got to come together, put aside our differences, just get Tom Wilson out of the goddamn playoffs, man. It's ridiculous. It's insane.
That dude needs to be out of the league. It's disgusting. But the thing is, I was talking to Richman about this. It's like what he did was awful, and like it shouldn't be in the league. Like he practices UFC moves on smaller players. He beats it. It's like he takes advantage of the rules, and he gets a slap on the wrist. And the thing about that though is it brings media attention. Yeah. And so the thing about Tom Wilson is that he's a goon. He's an asshole. But he can score and he can play. And that is such a rare combination in this league where you typically get like a Ryan Reeves on the Golden Knights, just a goon. The guy's in the fourth line. The coach tells him, go out there and beat the shit out of number 88. Like, just go out there and hurt somebody.
Gotta have the heel.
Yeah, and then you have the guys like Panarin and Patrick Kane. Your coach is like, go out there and put the biscuit in the basket, get some Genos. So, and to have a guy like Tom Wilson who's big and strong, who can do both, it's like I would love to have him on my team, honestly. I'd be mad at him at the same time. It'd be that bias, the Philly bias, of course. But it's like back to the issue at hand. It's like you really can't get him out of the league because people are paying attention to hockey now. They're like, holy shit, this guy just grabbed a star off his back and threw him on the ice and beat the shit out of him. It's like, it brings media attention. I understand why they're keeping him in the league, but if the same rules apply in like basketball or football, I think Tom Wilson would be suspended, maybe not completely cut from the league, but he'd get some serious repercussions for what he did. But back to the playoff series, I think that it's hard to tell. I think it's going to go to probably 6. I don't think it's going to go to 7. I think one team's going to take it eventually, but I really can't tell who's going to win that series, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some bias from my end for Boston, but I don't know, dude. That core of Krejci, Bergeron, Marchand, Rask, they know how to win. They know how to win a series. They know how to close it out. So if they get up 3-1, 3-2, even, I'm calling it Boston. But anything can happen.
No, I completely agree. I think it's all based on momentum. I think that since they're playing the same team as they played in the regular season, I think it's going to be all momentum. I don't think it's really necessarily skill anymore. Yeah. I think it's situation. And I think that if the NHL allows more fans in the stands, I think that's going to make all the difference. It's going to make all the difference. Because like looking at the Panthers game last night, they allowed, I think, 75% capacity. So there was like 9,000 people in the stands. And it was so damn cool to see those wild Floridians do some stupid shit in the stands. Like, it was just so much fun. And granted, though, they lost. It was still a momentum shifter, especially when they got their first goal. I think that whoever gets more home and ice advantage, I think that whoever the fans show up to support more, I think it's going to be a huge advantage. But you're right. If one team starts to pull away, I think they're going to cap it. But looking at the final two teams in the East, it is the Carolina Hurricanes and the Nashville Predators. So that was only in one game, and Carolina won. That was also played last night, and that is just a hard-hitting, fast, skill-based game. The Predators, from what I recall, were just a good team, not anything great. They were in a bad division, so they were able to shine pretty brightly. Mm-hmm. I think that game was a lot of fun to watch. I think it wasn't super high scoring by any means, but the goals that were scored were really exciting. I think that Carolina takes this series rather, in probably 5 or 6. I think they're going to pretty much handle them. But the Predators, again, they are only a couple years off of that conference or the Stanley Cup run against the Penguins. And they still have a good, solid core. I think that they still have a good team, but I think that they are just a few years away from getting to like actual cup contention. They're just young. I think they're just a young team. I think they're a little less inexperienced than the Hurricanes, rather. I don't think there's much to say about that series. I think that I'm pretty much dead certain that the Carolina Hurricanes are going to win, but I'm usually wrong about these things, so who knows? All right, and finally, let's get to the teams that I thought were going to win the Stanley Cup. The Vegas Golden Knights against the Minnesota Wild. So, much to my despair, the Wild take game 1 with a 1-0 shutout, and I was surprised to say the least. I think that with that game, it awoke the sleeping giant. I think that with the Golden Knights, they obviously have been in the league for like 3 or 4 years, and their first year ever in existence, they go to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah, right.
This team has not tasted adversity before. I mean, obviously they've lost, but they have gone into these series the past 2 or 3 years with a cocky attitude. They got a bunch of veterans and a bunch of guys who have been there, done that, or so they say, like Mark Stone and Petrangelo, who's won a cup, and Alex Tuck, and Blake Martinez, the defenseman who won the Stanley Cup Finals for the Kings against the Rangers. So they have people who have done it and have done the damn thing. But that first game, they looked slow. I think the Wild came out swinging. I think that the Wild know what they have to do. The Wild have to absolutely put the pedal to the metal and never let up. I think because they're so heavily underdogged, like they're not favored at all. And they know the skill they're going up against. They're going up against the President Cup champions. Like they know how dangerous this Golden Knights team is. And they blanked them. The first game, they blanked them. And absolutely full respect to the Wild. I remember a few weeks ago we talked about how much the Wild could make noise if they played against a lower team. And so far, I don't think they personally will make it past this first round. But they blanked the President Cup champions. Like that's an incredible achievement. However, they did play last night, and they actually scored the first goal. It came late in the second period. But then right off the bat, the Golden Knights started. They're like, let's get this shit together, and they scored 2 or 3 right off the bat, and then they came back and they scored an empty net. But that was, like I said earlier, I think they just awoke their sleeping giant. I think that the Golden Knights are such a deep roster. I think that they are so accustomed to winning, and maybe they needed to get shut out in that first game. I think they needed to have the fans be like, is this the team that we thought they were going to be? But no, I think the Wild, they have a skilled team. They're young. They were supposed to go into that rebuild or whatever they were going to do. But they got this kid named Kapasov, where the hell his name is. He's a rookie. He's only a little bit younger than McDavid, and he's been an absolute monster. I think he finished 9th in goal scoring this year. Came out of nowhere. I think that team is just they're prone, or they're not in their prime. I think they're going to do some pretty good shit in the next couple of years. But this season, I think it's going to be tough.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be tough, but I don't know. I love seeing those underdog stories, especially with this like young Wild team going up against, the big scary giant freaking Golden Knights. And like sometimes all you need is one game. They got the one game under the belt. Series is tied up. It's a best of 5 now. So
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
Obviously, I'm just friggin' talking to the stars or whatever. But like, I'm reaching, man. I want the Wild for this one. I'm sick and tired of hearing about the Golden Knights. Just this new team. They're great right off the bat. Like the league rigged. I'm into that whole conspiracy. The league rigged that draft for them so they can be good right off the bat. I want to see them taken down, man. I'm tired of it.
No, I'm not sure if I fully agree, but I do see the point of how they wanted that team to be good. And the thing is they aren't selected. They were able to get so they're not going to give a player to the Kraken. So we got the new expansion team coming in next season, the Seattle Kraken. And the Golden Knights, even though they've been in the playoffs every year since they've been in existence, they still don't have to give a player up in the expansion draft. Just absolute horseshit.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Like it's like I don't understand when they decided this. Maybe it was if they knew that they were going to expand another team up in Seattle. But you're right. It's like to have a brand new franchise come into the league and just dominate. You're absolutely right. If I didn't pick them to win, I would love to see them lose. I would love to see the Wild take this one. But yeah, so now tonight on Wednesday, the Canadian teams are going to play. And the matchups are the Toronto Maple Leafs against the Canadiens and the Oilers against Winnipeg. So I think both those series are going to be, again, super fun to watch. I think that with the Oilers, they have my MVP choice in McDavid. I don't know how you can choose anybody else. He is the leader in points and assists, and he's only behind Austin Matthews in goals for the entire season. Granted, like we keep saying this, they're in their own division. They're in a division with a bunch of really, really weak teams. So you can say like the what ifs, like what if McDavid was playing against a normal Western Conference division? It's like you can say these things, but that's not what happened this year. That's just isn't the case. I think the 2021 season, I think McDavid's my MVP. I don't know, but who do you got, Tom?
MVP wise, I mean, I got the stats pulled up right here. I don't know how you can beat it. I mean, he has 105 on the season. Person in second has 84.
Oh
He's
my
got
Lord.
21. He's 21 points ahead. And
games.
yeah, and assists, he's ahead by basically 20. Goals, like you said, he's only behind Austin Matthews by 8. I mean, I just don't know how you compete with that.
Yeah, it's like the only thing like I could potentially like hear an argument for is again like that Canadian division thing, but that's not the case. It's like whatever happened. I think that like I remember saying very early on this show that like how I didn't respect McDavid, how I didn't think he had a shot. This dude absolutely proved me wrong. He pulled like a Michael Jordan and developed a really sick mid-range shot.
Yeah.
He dominates. It's like watching him on the ice is like watching a guy playing on easy mode in NHL. It's like he cuts through teams, like the entire team. He takes it coast to coast and he tucks it. And not only that, he's incredible hockey IQ. He developed a shot and he has a great second fiddle to him with Neon Draisaitl, who arguably has a better shot than McDavid, who's more of a sniper. But it's like McDavid is just he's a point machine. You put him on a good team, and he's going to take him to the Cup Finals, in my opinion. I think that he has that generational talent and ability. But I do think that Austin Matthews can get there as well. I think Austin Matthews he's a bigger size-wise guy compared to McDavid. He's a little bit slower, but he's bigger. But he has a fucking wrist rocket for a shot. But he has an incredible team around him with Matthews. He has an incredible first line with him, obviously John Tavares and Mitch Marner. And I think that given a few years, it's going to be between those two guys. I think that if the Leafs don't win, or a playoff series rather, but if they don't win a cup in the next couple of years, Austin Matthews is going to be out of there. Yeah, I think he wants to. I think he wants to go to the Coyotes. Well, I don't know if anymore because how poorly they played the last few seasons. But he wants to get down in the south part of America. He wants to get into a warm city. And if they get him into like a rebuilding Kings team or a rebuilding Anaheim team, they are going to be filthy. Those teams are going to be filthy, and it's going to be an absolute blood show. I think that McDavid also has to leave. I think the Oilers are like a cursed organization. I think that they will never win a cup. And that's not true. I think that it'll be super, super difficult for us to see an Oilers championship. They draft so many good players and they just can't put together. It's like there's just some cities, some sports towns just can't do it. Philly included. Philly has had a couple runs, but over the years it's been like just pretty mediocre. Obviously, Boston has that thing. There's just sports cities that know how to run sports teams, but. So finally, back to the playoffs, though. I think that it's going to be a really fun Canadian division matchup in round one. I think that the Maple Leafs are going to have their hands full with the Canadians. I think that is going to go – that might go to 7 as well. I think it actually probably will go to 7 because of how well the Canadians started playing at the end of the season. Again, we keep talking about young teams with like 1 or 2 really good players. Once those young kids develop, they're going to be monsters. They just got to figure out their goaltending situation with Carey Price. He's not getting any younger. Obviously, one of the best goaltenders of all time, not even in our generation of all time, like bar none. But again, he's getting older. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. And then finally, with the Oilers and the Jets, I think that the Oilers handle them pretty handedly. I think that the Jets snuck into the playoffs. I think they were the coldest team going into the playoffs this year. I think they're on almost a 9-game losing streak. They have talent, obviously. They got Dubois. That big trade happened at the trade deadline. But they don't have the pieces to put together a good defense or a real good, solid scoring line. I think their goaltending situation is good. I think their goaltender is really, really solid. But they need to build up from that. And that's what like the Flyers are stuck in, where it's like, I think that the Carter Hart thing, I hate to go back to the Flyers every damn week, but it's just for a quick little snippet. I think that Carter Hart is not as bad as he played this year. And if they build from the back end up, they can have a really good chance of getting back to the playoffs next year. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's my our playoff little snippet for round 1, and I'm sure we'll be back in a couple days to wrap up what's going on.
Yep. So it's pretty much going to wrap it up here, boys. Playoff hockey. Do got our favorites here, but anything can happen in the playoffs, so it will be exciting to see how it plays out here in the next couple days. We are the Meat Pack. Check out the links in the description. Get yourself some Raise Energy. Go follow these boys on Twitter. Go follow me on Twitter. Subscribe to our YouTube, and we will see you next time, boys. Peace.
Perfect.